Help.
Engaged.
Greetings everyone. In this episode, I will give some tips, which should make your Dying Light gameplay experience easier, and hence frustration-free. I will also give a quick review about what I think about this game, but that will be towards the end. I have started a brand new game just for the purposes of this video, in order to demonstrate that these tips should work, no matter what level our character is. This is just after the first 2 training missions, and we are going out into the open world for the first time. Some of these tips work best before certain objectives are completed, so the titles of these objectives might lead to minor spoilers, so be warned. Okay, so the first tip is, kick and swing. Kick first, and then take a swing at them with your weapon. Kicking does not use up your combat stamina, which is good, because we don't have much to begin with. So kicking not only keeps the zombies at a distance, it can also interrupt their attacks, enabling you to get in a good hit without taking any damage yourself. But it's never a good idea to take on too many zombies at once, so we have skipped forward a little to a more controlled encounter. So remember, kick first and then take 1 or 2 swings. Which brings us on to tip number 2. This is a rule to remember, especially when fighting zombies, and that is, aim for the head. Because you never know, a critical hit might destroy the head, thus killing the zombie instantly. And even if it doesn't, headshots always do more damage. Now let's go back to where we were, and, onto tip number 3, death from above. This involves climbing onto something, such as a van, ledge, wall, basically, any place the zombies cannot reach you. Crouch down first, or you might not be able to hit them. A decent weapon should be able to take them out in about 3 hits. If you happen to be on a van, you don't have to crouch down. If you head to the sloped part of the van, you might take some hits though, so bear that in mind. Don't forget that this is at the start of the game, and our character is only level 1 in all 3 upgradable categories, so it will be slow going to begin with. But once we level up a little, we should be able to kill them quicker. You can also use your fists, if you want, but they don't seem to do much damage. They can be useful in certain situations, as we will see a little later. Kicks don't do that much damage either. It takes about 20 kicks to kill an enemy, so it's better to use an actual weapon if you want to be an efficient killer, especially in these early stages. If you keep using a weapon, it will eventually break. And fixing it means leaving yourself vulnerable for a few seconds. Even switching weapons can leave you vulnerable, especially if you try to select a specific one. But by using the death from above strategy, you won't have to worry about any of that. You can safely select another suitable weapon, or repair your current one, under no pressure at all. So, by staying in one place, and bashing a few heads in, we managed to level up the power ability. And as you can see, all nearby zombies are now dead, which means we are free to explore the buildings nearby, but more on it later. We can only upgrade one thing at the moment. A chance to stun enemies with a blunt weapon. Better than nothing, I suppose. After completing the next objective, we level up our survivor skill category. Again, we don't have much choice in what we can upgrade, but this time, it's a pretty useful skill, since we will be able to craft some basic, yet useful items. Some of the tips I will be giving depend on specific upgrades, which is why I am involving you guys in the upgrades process. So when the really important upgrades become available, you will already have a sense of how this character has been upgraded.
Hey Spike, I'm Crane.
Made them myself. They make a fine distraction if you get in trouble.
And after completing the next objective, we get some free firecrackers, as well as the ability to make them ourselves. Anyway, while doing our next objective, we are called in to help someone nearby. We ultimately end up securing our first safe zone,
to make this place safe at night.
If we exit the safe zone, by jumping over the fence by that white van over there, there is another white van, just outside on the left. Here's the van, and we ended up here, after completing another small objective. Remember this spot, we'll be back here in a moment. Now I will demonstrate tip number 4, bait and trap. Zombies are not too bright, so if you throw a firecracker, they will move towards it, and if there happens to be an environmental hazard nearby, like say a burning car, then the dumb frackers will likely set themselves on fire. This can also work with other, manually triggered hazards too, which you can find by exploring. Anyway, here's tip number 5, helping hand, or foot, into an environmental hazard or trap. You can use this tip, and the previous one, as a combo, but it can also be used on its own. Although we are kicking zombies into fire here, it is better, and quicker, to hit them, into spike traps. So let's go back to that spot I mentioned earlier. This footage is from a different playthrough and captured from a PlayStation 4.
Just throw something to the crowd. Those dead bastards are easily distracted.
As you can see, by choosing a tactical location, you can hit zombies into traps. This can be done with weapons, but also your fists. Much safer than using fire, where you can damage yourself by getting too close to the flames. Spike traps can be found all over the place, you just need to keep an eye out for them. Okay, now back to the PC footage. We appear to have an agility point to spend. You never saw how it was earned, because I cut out that footage. Anyway, the first skill we can purchase is the dodge ability. Now we can better avoid incoming attacks. So here we are again, on top of another van. Several zombies have been killed already, and we have just leveled up the power skill. Normally I would go for the kick stun skill, but this time, I will go the other way, and get the multi-throw skill, in order to unlock the blast skill quicker. But anyway, let's see what tip number 6 is about. First there was Dawn of the Dead. Then there was Shaun of the Dead. So in honor of those films, I named the next tip, SHUN of the Dead. You see, if you have a pile of dead bodies like this, searching each one for loot can be a time-consuming process. But if you simply ignore them, turn your back on them, and walk away a short distance, shun them so to speak, then the bodies will disappear. So you can return here and simply pick up the loot quickly, without the need to waste time searching the bodies. And as you can see, there were plenty of bodies here, judging by the dropped loot. This is an excellent way to gather resources, since almost anything can be dropped by zombies. With this kind of loot system built in, who needs a duplication glitch anyway? And this brings us on to tip number 7, Scavenger Pro. Once all zombies have been killed, you can explore the surrounding buildings in peace, and gather resources. There's plenty of loot lying around, and the best thing about it is that if you return after a few hours to an area, chances are that same loot will have respawned in the same places. So if you invest a little time scavenging, you could have plenty of useful items for the tough times ahead, and believe me, things do get harder as you complete more quests. The next tip is not that hard, because all we have to do is freeze time. That may not be possible in the real world, but in this game, it is. You see, this game has a day-night cycle, and it starts properly after we complete this first mission, which is called First Assignment. This mission has several objectives, so by delaying the final objective of this mission, we delay the day-night cycles from starting. You might be wondering why this is important. Well, at nighttime, you have these boss-level enemies, called volatiles. In these early stages of the game, when you are not that powerful, even one of them can kill you quite easily. But what usually happens is, about 4 of them gang up on you. So going out at night time can be suicidal, especially if you don't know the right tactics to use. Which is why I would recommend you spend some time now, gathering resources and leveling up a few times, while the threat of night is not a problem. But don't worry, I will show you some tactics later on in this video, which should help you at night too. Since we are looking at the map, I would like to bring your attention to this point up here. When we finish this current objective, we will be quite near that location. The significance of this location will become clear soon enough. So, skipping forward a little, we are just about to complete this current objective. Let's see what happens.
Fuck, Spike, the whole goddamn district went down. What the hell's going on?
Not again. Alright, listen. There's a power substation near you. Go check it out.
Before we do that, let's go to that location I mentioned. Trust me, you will not regret it. We could have gone to this location at any time before, but I think now is probably the most convenient time. This brings us on to tip number 9, get a BFM. And in case you are wondering, it stands for Big Fracking Machete. The blueprint for it lies on top of the roof of this building, which means an awkward climb. Well, it's awkward the first time you try it. Once you know what you are doing, it's pretty straightforward. I would recommend that you have a full health bar, in case you miss a ledge and fall. If you fall from a great height however, a full health bar will not matter, because you will die either way. Anyway, jumping onto this barrier here will make it easier to grab onto the air conditioning unit, or whatever the hell it is, above. Next, look back towards this light, and then jump towards it. It's pretty straightforward from here, so just do as I do. Jump onto this ledge to reach the roof. The blueprint is behind this room. We have to kick this box 76 times to open it. On every 15th kick, there is some dialogue, except for the final time, when the dialogue is on the 16th kick. Not sure why that is, maybe someone is really bad at maths.
Ah, shit.
If you were counting, then you can confirm that he spoke as soon as the 15th kick landed. Anyway, I will start to fast forward after the next dialogue, to keep things moving.
No time to waste.
My sentiments exactly.
What the fuck was that? Shit. Okay. Okay, it's done. Fuck.
Finally. This BFM is called the Cork Machete. Now let's see what crafting materials are needed to create it. Alcohol and metal parts, both common materials which are easy to find. But I seem to be lacking a metal part. No problem, I can just dismantle a weapon to get it. So here it is, the Cork Machete. It does nearly 500 damage, which can be upgraded to nearly 700. When you consider that the most powerful weapons available at the moment only do about 100 damage, that's quite a big difference. You do get more powerful weapons later on in the game, which do about 2000 damage, but that's towards the end. In fact, having this weapon now, almost feels like cheating. But hey, it's in the game, so why not use it? Unfortunately, I didn't have any damage upgrades, but the current damage level is more than enough, considering how early in the game this is. Okay, let's head back to the current objective, and see the Cork in action. I have to warn you though, this game's engine might be good at running and climbing up, but it is totally useless at climbing down in a controlled manner. Every time I try to drop down one ledge, or drop and try to grab a ledge, the character just falls to the ground. And then this happens. This kinda ruins the whole experience, and takes away from the game. I hope they address this issue in an update. Or perhaps there is a trick to climbing down, that I have not figured out yet. But anyway, here we are, at the next objective. I will change to a weaker weapon for now, so that a comparison can be made. You'll see what I mean, in a moment.
What is this?
Well, if you ask me, it seems to be a ripoff from Resident Evil 5, because this mini-boss is very similar to an executioner. Funnily enough, the guy voicing our character is the same guy who did Chris's voice in Resident Evil 5. Broken weapon, so I was climbing up here to fix it, but as it turns out, no metal parts. But doesn't matter though, since I was going to change it anyway. As you saw, a normal weapon is not very effective against a big brute like that. So let's try our BFM and see how that compares. Ha, one hit kill, more or less, because I did get him with the other weapon too. But the outcome would have been the same, even if he didn't take the previous damage. So after completing the current objective, night will fall, but it's nothing to worry about, since the truly dangerous enemies will not come out tonight. It's the next night that we have to worry about. Anyway, we now have to get back to the safe zone we secured earlier. Once there, we can sleep till the morning, and now comes the truly important part.
Green, you awake?
Spike, what's going on?
Something bad happened. We need to talk.
Okay, give me a sec.
We now have to talk to Spike, so I would suggest we get there as quickly as possible.
Hey, Spike, what's up?
And now, we need to talk to the GRE, on a nearby rooftop, but first, let's upgrade a survivor skill. I decided to go with increased inventory space, because a total of 8 slots is too restrictive. Now we will have a total of 12 slots. After talking to the GRE, note how inactive safe zones have been added to the map. And this brings us on to tip number 10, secure all safe zones. Because not only will you get a lot of XP for your survivor skill, but you will also be making it easier the next time night falls. But at the moment, we control when that is, by freezing time, as explained in tip number 8. Until we go see Brecken, nighttime will not come. So during this permanent daytime period, we can unlock safe zones, farm items, and increase our resources in relative peace. And talking about resources, here's tip number 11, collect herbs and plants. Common locations are marked on the map, but they can be found in any grassy or rocky areas. For example, toxic lichen can be found on the rocks, behind the safe zone where we talked to Spike. We are going there now. Herbs and plants can be used for making boosters such as night vision, and can even help towards making you invisible. More about the invisible part, later. When looking at the map, a little to the left of our current position, there is a secret airdrop on the water. There's only one crate, but still worth picking up, since it contains a disaster relief, on-site package. Each one of these gets you survivor XP, and as you progress through the game, the amount of XP for each package goes up a lot. Airdrops do not begin until after you speak to Brecken at the tower, so this is an early bonus. So tip number 12 is a bonus airdrop, and the best thing about this particular airdrop is that it will respawn after major events in the game. For example, if you complete a current main mission objective, chances are, if you come back here, the crate will be full again. But you cannot force it to respawn its contents, for example, by sleeping a few days at the safe house, so don't waste your time trying. You have to let some time pass, leave the area, and then return after doing something significant from the quests list, in order to get another airdrop from here. This tip, however, can be a lot more useful, in conjunction with the next tip. Tip number 13, the item duplication glitch. The PC version has been patched, so it will not work on there anymore. I can confirm, however, that it still works on the PlayStation 4, at the time I made this video, but I'm not sure about the Xbox One version though. And before we discuss the rights and wrongs of using glitches, let's take a quick look at how it works. This footage is from the PlayStation 4 version. Go to a safe zone that has a storage bag. Place a large quantity of any item in storage. The amount of the item placed will be the amount we will be duplicating another item by. So highlight the item in storage. Press the search button and the crouch button together, quickly. A dialog box will appear. Don't do anything until it disappears on its own. Go back into storage, where that same dialog box will reappear. Select the item you wish to duplicate from the left-hand side, in other words your backpack. Choose the All option. Look in storage on the right-hand side to find your duplicated items. And that's all there is to it. So if we were to use this duplication trick on an airdrop disaster relief package, we could in theory fully max out our survival skill before the game has even begun properly. This video is meant to show you how to make this game easier, so I would be remiss if I did not show you this glitch, because it certainly makes things easier. But I would seriously advise against using this glitch, especially on an airdrop, and especially on a first-time playthrough, because it can ruin your enjoyment of the game. You have been warned. On a second-time playthrough, however, this is a good way to save some time, so knock yourselves out and duplicate to your heart's content. Tip number 14, unlock the melee throw skill as soon as possible. It becomes available when you reach power level 4, so I would strongly recommend you purchase it right away. I know I said I wanted to get the blast skill quickly too, but this skill takes priority, because it is incredibly useful, as you will see shortly. I've just unlocked a safe zone, and now I am using tip number 3, Death from Above, to kill zombies safely, in order to reach power level 4. Later on, you have spike traps in this same location, so you can use tip number 5 here, Helping Hand. There we go, level 4 reached in the power ability. Throwing your weapon is useful for taking out enemies that are dangerous to approach, such as goons, so for this reason alone, it's worth having. But there is another reason for having this skill too. In fact, it is the subject of tip number 15, one-hit kill. You might be surprised to learn that most normal zombies can be killed with just one throw from a melee weapon. Here, watch this if you don't believe me. But in order to guarantee that one-hit kill, you must use tip number 2, aim for the head. You must also use a weapon that does at least 24 damage. But that's only for this stage of the game. As you level up, the minimum damage required increases to as high as 60. So it appears that throwing a melee weapon does at least 3 times the normal damage. Which means that you are not only a more efficient zombie killer, but your weapon will last longer and save you time. More powerful weapons, such as the Cork machete, that have been upgraded to about 700 damage, can one-hit kill even a volatile. A weapon that does 700 damage would normally kill a volatile in 3 to 4 hits, so one hit is definitely a useful tactic, especially when facing multiple volatiles. That's certainly something to bear in mind the next time you go out at night. Tip number 16, go for broke, follows on from the previous 2 tips. Whenever you throw a melee weapon, it counts as one weapon use, just as it does when you simply hit a zombie with it, without throwing it. Eventually, it will break, so if you hit a zombie with a broken weapon, barely any damage will be done. But if you throw this broken weapon, guess what? It still does 3 times the damage, almost like the game ignores the fact that it's broken, just because you're throwing it. So you could keep throwing broken weapons, without ever fixing them, and still get one-hit kills. The Cork machete cannot be fixed, but rather than get rid of it, you can keep using it as a powerful throwing weapon. Later on in the game, you become more powerful, so you don't have to rely on throwing weapons for quick kills against normal zombies, but it is still a good tactic to use against boss-level enemies. Tip number 17, Firestarter. This tip is more for human enemies, specifically, Rice's men. They can be a real pain to deal with, since they block most attacks, and can kill you within seconds. So the safest strategy is to just throw a few Molotov cocktails at them. At least 2 are usually required to deal with 3 men. You may need more if they are scattered about and not standing near each other. Molotovs can also be used on large groups of zombies to clear out an area quickly, which is also a good way to earn power XP. Tip number 18, Death from below. Again, this is more for human enemies. If you crouch and attack their legs, there is less chance of them blocking you, and with a cork machete, you can easily one-hit kill them. Running towards them and then sliding is a good way to start a low attack. Fracker almost took me out. Which is why you should never underestimate human enemies, especially Rice's men. Okay, so, that just about covers all the basic, useful things you can do near the start of the game. You can go and do the final part of the mission now, and let the day-night cycles commence. But what about nighttime tactics, I hear you ask? Well, that will be the subject of a separate video, where I will show the tactics beginners should use, as well as more advanced techniques. Meanwhile, my advice would be to avoid going out at night, until you level up and get the more useful skills. Anyway, there are a few more, very useful tips, I would like to discuss, but you will only be able to do them at a more advanced stage in your level up process. And this brings us on to tip number 19, Death from Above Part 2. This is achieved by unlocking the Stomp skill move. You might think that this move will only work on downed zombies, but that is not the case. If you are standing above them, like say on a car or van, you can still perform this move. So I say, let the fun begin. Because I don't know about you, but kicking zombies' heads in is quite satisfying. And best of all, no stamina is used. Using this technique, we can clear out an entire area full of zombies. You could argue that Molotovs would be quicker when clearing out large numbers of zombies, and you would be correct. But later on in the game, some zombies will have explosive body parts, which will cause a loud bang when exposed to fire. This will draw the attention of multiple virals, the fast-moving zombies that pursue you relentlessly. Molotovs are like a big clumsy club. The stomp move is more precise, and has almost a surgical quality about it, as you carve your way through zombie hordes. But there is another technique, which has even more finesse, and is my preferred technique in almost any game. If you've seen any of my walkthroughs, then you've probably already guessed what I am referring to. So here it is, tip number 20, the final tip, stealth tactics. We can achieve this in various ways, which will all be discussed here. But before we get into the specifics, just look at all the loot the zombies have dropped. So we should have no shortage of, and a wide variety of, crafting supplies. So here's what's required to get the full stealth tactics experience. From the survivor category, the camouflage and camouflage attack skills. And from the power category, the takedown skill. Let's see these skills in action. The camouflage skill lets you use zombie remains to make zombies think that you are one of them. When applied, it will turn your vision yellow, as well as place blood on the screen. But attacking a zombie will turn all zombies against you. Which is why we also need the camouflage attack skill. With this skill unlocked, only the zombie you attack will turn hostile, the rest will ignore you. And the best way to attack a zombie without the risk of retaliation is to use the takedown skill. This will instant kill all normal zombies, virals, night hunters, and even human enemies. It does not work against volatiles though, and other types of enemies. The camo attack skill also adds 30 seconds to the total camo time, which if you are moving about, lasts only about 30 seconds to begin with. So assuming you are moving about like I am here, you will get a total of about 1 minute. In theory, it would seem that each kill adds another 30 seconds to the time, which implies unlimited camo time. But that is not the case, as we will see soon. Note how our vision will change from yellow to normal, which will mean the camo effect has worn off. It appears you only get about 1 minute in total, no matter how many zombies you kill in that time. If you are standing absolutely still, the camo might last about a minute and a half. The best strategy is to keep applying the camo every 50 seconds or so to get the unlimited camo time. Sooner, if you don't have a watch handy. So with these 3 skills, you can kill hundreds of zombies in one go, in relative safety. But there is one obvious downside to this. Yes, the bloody, or should I say, obscured, vision. It can be hard to carry out certain tasks if half your vision is obscured with blood. But not to fear, I have a solution for that too. As you apply the camo, stop as soon as you join hands. If you get the timing right, you can get away with no blood on your screen at all. You will know if it worked, because your vision will turn yellow. If your vision was already yellow, then look down at the body you used, to see if the camo prompt is still there. If it is, then you need to try again. It's all about practice really. Eventually you will get the hang of it. But what's most likely to happen is this. A small amount of blood only, which is still preferable to the full blood effects. Okay, that just about covers the camo part of this tip. Now for the finishing touch, Cloak Potion. The Cloak Potion is probably the ultimate stealth solution in this game. It is ideally suited for situations where applying camouflage is not possible, due to nearby threats, as is the case here. It makes you invisible to zombies, so you can simply sneak up behind one, perform a takedown, and then apply the camouflage. You might be thinking why the camo is necessary, if you have the Cloak Potion. 3 reasons. Firstly, the potion only lasts for 30 seconds, whereas the camo's time can be extended, as discussed earlier. Secondly, creating cloak potions is not that easy, since you need a rare ingredient. Lastly, you can only carry 10 per inventory slot, so you don't want to be carrying too much on you at once. The cloak potion, however, does have one clear advantage over the camo. As explained earlier, if you use camouflage, and then attack a zombie, it will permanently turn hostile towards you. Even if you apply fresh camo, it will still attack. But not if you take a cloak potion. Cloak potions can reset an enemy's hostile tendencies towards you. This is especially useful against a group of volatiles, whom you may have damaged with a flare. A cloak potion will get them off your case. It's like a get-out-of-jail-free card, so I would suggest you use them sparingly. And that's about it for this video. I was supposed to quickly review this game, but we're out of time, so I'll make it extra quick. This is a good game overall, and I would normally give it a 6 out of 10. But the parkour system is a nice touch, and it feels good to be able to climb onto almost anything, so just for that, I'll give it an extra point. In fact, in some places it almost felt like a homage to Mirror's Edge, the original game to use parkour in a first-person view game. So, 7 out of 10. Please remember to comment, thumbs up and subscribe, if you found this video helpful. This is Blade, and it's goodbye from me.